Hey everyone, so today I have a fun treat. I've seen this clip of these two women debating over pro-choice or pro-life, and it made me really want to find the full video, but it was never linked in the comments or description of the short I was watching. But after a little while, I did eventually find it, and I watched the whole thing, and I decided it'd be funny to make a video about it. And to spice things up a little bit, during this debate, I'm gonna have a scoreboard for their W points and their L points. So anyway, I'm not going to show the entire video because a lot of it is not super exciting. I'm only going to show the exciting parts, so I just want to disclaimer, there were a lot more people who came up to ask questions and were a lot more calm about it, and they weren't super loud and losing their mind all the time. I'm only showing you the really interesting ones because, content, but just so you know. So let's get into the first question asker.
Hi. There you go. Hi. Okay. My name is Darby. I just want to read you this poster that I have because I hear a lot of pro-lifers say that life begins at conception. And I want to read you this poster that I have, and I have a couple other things to say. They're not necessarily questions, but I would like to hear what you do have to say about them. So my poster reads, "Life begins when you understand living women matter more than potential babies."
If you listen to what she just said, she's suggesting, if you take it literally, she's suggesting that you become alive the moment that you understand that living women matter more than potential babies. So you're not alive up until that point, but once you understand that, you then become alive. Obviously, she's not saying that that's literally true. She's using it as some kind of insult, I think, saying that they're not alive because they don't understand that. I don't know, but the point of what she's saying, if you try to see it in its best light, she's saying that living women matter more than potential babies, which I think is a pretty good argument. I don't know why she had to do that weird thing with signs, so I don't know. I guess I'll give her a point. It's a reluctant point, though.
What is it?
What do you mean?
If it's a potential baby, what is inside of a woman?
A fetus.
It's a fetus?
Is it living?
No.
Yes.
How can it grow if it's not living?
So I get what she's trying to say here. How can it grow when it's not living? Technically, growth isn't the only thing that you need to define something being alive. Crystals grow and they're not alive. But I understand what she's trying to say, so I'll give her a point for that.
That's like saying... That's like saying... Hold on, guys.
Yeah, because trees are living. Trees grow because trees are living.
Hey, well, actually, that's like saying if an acorn is a tree. That's like saying an acorn is an oak tree. It has to develop.
What? That's not what that's like saying. Your analogy of an acorn being equal to a tree would be the human equivalent of that would be saying that a fetus is equal to a fully grown human, which is not what you're comparing it to. Acorns are alive, just like how a human fetus is alive. What is your argument here?
It has to develop into that oak tree.
So
it's called an analogy.
So when does the
Y'all like to
fetus
use analogies.
when does the fetus become living?
Conception.
That's actually a good question, but that line...
Yeah, of course, because you don't know it. Because it's living. It's living. You're fundamentally denying science to validate your opinion.
You actively deny science, ma'am.
How am I denying? What science did I deny, Darby?
Okay, so let's look at some posters over here. Hey, Maddie, can you erase your poster?
I don't know why she keeps going to the posters. Well, what is her obsession with the posters? She keeps trying to quote them like they're credible sources. What on earth? I actually don't know what to say about that. I'm just gonna give her an X because that is just such a... I just don't even know what to say.
Hey, you don't have to be here.
I need you to tell me what science... You just made an accusation that I denied science. What science did I deny?
That it's a child inside of you. It is a clump of cells when...
I'm a clump of cells. What makes me different?
So even though she is right here, I feel like she could have made that point in a better way, like stating the fact that from conception, our entire life is just one continuous growth until around age 25-ish. But asking her what the difference is between a fetus and her right now is not a very good strategy, because obviously the woman over here is going to just say that, you were born, because that's her entire belief is that once you're born, you become a human being or you become alive or something. But I'll still give her a check because she is technically right.
That you were born? You were born.
So you don't. What you're arguing is that anything that is not born is not valuable of life.
Oh, here we go. This theme is going to come up a lot. You will notice all throughout this thing, this lady is going to constantly mention being valuable of life or being just like objectively valuable. Oh my gosh, it gets old very fast because she doesn't give any reasons why human life is inherently valuable. She doesn't I understand that she thinks that because of her religious beliefs. I don't know, but that is like the main problem with this whole like pro-life versus pro-choice is pro-lifers, they get their values off of Christianity, which says that human life is inherently valuable because we're so much different and like special than all the other animals. You know, this earth was given to us by God and whatnot. But without that, then it becomes pretty clear that life isn't inherently valuable.
I did not say that.
It's subjective. So when does a child or fetus or clump of cells, whatever you want to call it, when does this clump of cells or fetus become living?
When it can sustain
But
its own life.
I had a good chuckle over this one. It becomes alive once it can sustain its own life. Okay, so it's just existing, not being alive, and then as soon as it can sustain its own life, it becomes alive. That doesn't make sense.
but when is the sustainability? No, when is sustainability?
About like 30 weeks to born, like 24.
Because how do you sustain life? Like my newborns aren't sustainable. You can't just have a newborn and they just like live on their own.
Okay, so going off of how I think that she interpreted her argument, this argument then does not make sense. Because I'm assuming that this person was trying to say that sustainability, it becomes alive once it is able to be its own separate being and just be detached from, the mother, once the umbilical cord is cut, I suppose. And then she is saying that she's comparing that to her newborns and like all children, I suppose, not being able to like get a job and work for food and like live on their own and stuff. It's definitely different. I get what she's saying, but I think she's exaggerating a bit just to prove her own point rather than like I feel like I had a pretty good argument against what she said, just like making fun of her. But yeah, I'm gonna give her an X because she could have done that a lot better.
Right?
Right.
They're not sustainable. They need help and assistance to survive. So is a newborn not worthy of life?
Oh wow, here we go again. Second time worthy of life was mentioned. My God.
Is a newborn not worthy of life?
Okay. Would you like to come speak? Actually,
Let her finish.
I do have one thing to say to you. How is it that when my mom was in college 30 years ago, she was protesting the exact same thing that me and these wonderful other women and men on this side have been protesting?
What in tarnation? Okay, so she's saying that because her mother was protesting the same thing so many years ago, that means it's right, and she's right. Even though that would go both ways. Logically, right? Logically, that would go both ways. So, okay, so that's basically saying that for any debate or argument that lasts a long time, it must mean that both sides are right because they've been arguing about it for so long. That doesn't make any sense. There are people today who still believe that the earth is flat, believe it or not. That doesn't mean that it is.
How is it? Why? Why are we still protesting? Why are we still having to talk about this issue? It is a basic human right.
To do what?
To have an abortion, to have a choice.
What's an abortion? What is an abortion? What is, define for me what abortion is. What is an abortion?
Taking a fetus out of a woman's body.
Is the fetus living?
No.
Yes.
We've been over that.
How can a fetus grow if it's not living? Explain to me the science of it. How is a fetus living how is it growing if it's not living?
My pubes grow, but they're not living.
What? Oh my God, what a... Man, she could have chosen like anything else. That's just wild. Her choice. I mean, I said crystals. That was my my choice. Man, her pubes. That's just wow. I just don't even know what to say. Also, that's a weird choice for so many different reasons. For one, it's part of you. You are alive, and they're growing because your hair follicles are alive. Like, I mean, I just don't get why you would think that that's a good idea to bring that up in this situation.
Because your pubic hair is a part of you.
And I like how the lady just like, she just has to go along with it. She's like, like, okay, well, you've chosen your pubic hair as an example, so your pubic hair is a part of you.
Not done talking. You assigned value to your children, and that is the difference between your living children, the ones that you gave birth to. That is the difference between somebody who is holding a fetus in their body, a woman who is pregnant. If she does not want that baby, she has not assigned the same value to it that you have to your own children.
Yo, she said it. She said what we're all thinking. Yes, the whole, like, root of the disagreement comes from whether or not humans are intrinsically valuable. And they are not. Scientifically, they're not, because that makes no sense at all. And this lady, this very smart lady, well, I don't know, I can't remember what else she says. I don't want to say that too soon. But what she's saying right now is true. Yeah. Because the woman hasn't assigned any value, doesn't have any value. Sorry, the fetus isn't valuable to her at all. There would be no reason to keep it alive. Like, there's literally no reason. You can make the argument that, okay, well, you know, now that we have technology and stuff spreads around. This lady now knows about fetuses that are being aborted, and she cares about them. You know, they have value to her for some reason. Well, they don't. She can say that, but they don't have any value to her, or like maybe they do, but it's not for any good reason. It's just because like religion says that she should feel that way. It's not actual value.
Therefore, I'm not done talking. I am not done talking. I said I'm not done talking.
Oh my god, get used to this. They scream over each other a lot.
Okay, you can keep yelling at me, but I'm just asking. Do you think that's a
You
slippery
can't cut
slope?
me off, lady. You can't
I'm
cut me
asking
off.
you a clarifying question, ma'am.
Am I talking to you?
I think you're getting into a slippery slope, though.
People are more valuable to some people than other people. My mom is more valuable to me than that weird kid at school who thinks we're friends, even though his parents love him very, very much. Yeah, that's a real slippery slope.
Because what you're saying is assigning value.
All of your arguments are slippery slopes, my friend.
Another thing that I would like to point out that is pseudoscience, it's just wrong, is that you said heartbeats begin before 6 weeks. That is wrong. Those are electrical impulses because they don't have a fully formed heart yet.
Yes, their heart is not
Electrical
fully
impulses
formed.
are not the same as a heartbeat, honey. They're not. And you're wrong. I have a question. It's pseudoscience, and you
Do you
can't
have a
keep
question
spreading
for me?
lies.
Do
No,
you
I'm
have a
sitting here.
question?
You're spreading lies on my campus, and I'm not fucking okay with that in the slightest.
I'm more concerned that you just said that some people can assign value to other human beings and not. So what you just heard was a slippery slope argument.
No.
And that's actually very concerning. Because when some people get to say that some people have rights and other people don't have rights,
Hold on, how did we get here? We were talking about how value is subjective. I don't understand how she got that and then turned that into saying that some people have rights and other people don't have rights. What?
that is
She's trying to get.
that is a slippery slope, because that's exactly what we've seen time and time again throughout human history and throughout our American history. When we decided that some people have rights and some people don't, and it depends on you to give them value.
Alright, so why do people have rights, if not because they're valuable to society?
That never ends very well.
You never answered my question about why we're still having to have this conversation.
Do you want me to answer the question?
I'd love to. I
The
don't.
reason we're still having the question is because some people don't want to accept the natural consequences of heterosexual sex and be inconvenienced by another human life, and want to selfishly choose to end human life in order to have their whims met.
Nope, not true. When I'm disagreeing with you, I'm not thinking, oh, you know, thank God, hopefully if I win this, I can have unsafe sex and not have to worry about having a baby. No, I'm just thinking about it logically, and your values don't make sense. Also, I think a large majority of the people who are on the pro-choice side are just saying that it should be legal for people who need it. I don't think that the majority of them are planning on using it as birth control. But there are times when you are either not fit to have a baby or raise a baby, or certain instances like rape, where you had no way to control it, you should be able to not have to go through with it. I feel like it's so obvious, I can't believe it's an actual debate.
That is why you're still arguing.
So when I was
Disgustingly wrong.
when I was raped, ooh yeah, got real quiet, didn't it? When I was raped, and if I was impregnated, I would have to bear that child, because the government says so.
This is a really good point. Like I just said, even if the percentage is small, it's still important to have it legalized for people who need it.
Because you want to take away my right to not bear that child. I don't want to have to bear the child of my rapist, who, hey, by the way, walks free on this campus. Yeah. And he raped me in high school. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that's a real shocker. And please do not say, oh, I am sorry that you were raped. I am sorry that that happened to you. But why would I have to bear the child of my rapist?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, I would love to hear your opinion.
So I'm going to answer your question.
Yeah,
and
go
I
ahead.
guess you can sit down, and then there'll be another question.
Yeah,
So you
absolutely.
can-
That's fine.
I am sorry that you were a victim of sexual assault.
Didn't I
No,
just
excuse
say?
me.
Just say to not say that.
Here they get really mad at her for saying that she's sorry. I mean, I don't really get why. Like, I get that she said to not say sorry, but I don't know. It just seems like a really weird reason to get mad. Like, I'm not deducting a debate point or anything, but I just wanted to say that I found that very weird.
I am sorry that you are a victim of sexual assault and you've had to survive that. And I can't think of any, excuse me, I can't think of anything more heinous to happen to another human being than sexual assault.
Answer the question.
But I would say that every human being has value, and that doesn't matter the circumstance of your conception.
I believe that's the third time she's mentioned human lives being intrinsically valuable.
If I were raped and I chose not to have an abortion, I became pregnant because of the rape. If I was one of the 5% who became pregnant, if I chose not to have an
5% is
abortion,
two.
excuse me, if I chose not to have an abortion, would I be justified at 2 years old to kill my child? Why is that an outrageous statement? Why? Because we acknowledge it's a living child, and even those who support abortion acknowledge it's a living child. That, my friends, is the crux of our argument in the pro-life movement. That a child before birth is the same as a child after birth. You didn't come from a fetus.
That's not reality.
You did not come from a clump of cells. You, in fact, once were a fetus. You once were whatever the name you want to subscribe
Stating
to a child
basic
in the
information
womb.
and then trying to
And
take
your
your own spin on
value,
it is
excuse
not going
me,
to work.
you just
It's interesting. It's very fascinating how she says this person claims that she is stating basic information, even though if this is basic information, then you should know it, right? I mean, shouldn't you know this already if it's so basic? Earlier, I don't know if this is the same person. I'm not paying enough attention, but earlier someone was up here saying that fetuses are not alive, and I'm pretty sure that's like their whole argument of this whole like posse, this group that they have going on. So it's weird that she calls it basic information since she's saying it's also saying it's not true. I don't understand.
excuse me. Your
disgust
value in the
me.
womb is the same as your value
Sorry.
outside of
Cross
the
me the
womb.
mic.
And in the pro-life movement, we believe that every human being has an equal right to life and is equally valuable. That the crimes of our parents, the crimes of our fathers, do not mean that we do not have value or that justifies the ending of our human life.
So I do actually agree with this. Whatever crimes your ancestors, and no matter how far back or how recent, committed, it's not your fault, and you should not be held accountable for that. However, that is completely unrelated to what we're talking about. The reason that someone is getting an abortion is not because they were raped and they're trying to punish the fetus for the father having raped them. That's not what that is. Like, I mean, if you genuinely think that, I feel like you're actually stupid.
I think as a pro-life movement and as human beings in general, when it comes to sexual assault, we should be willing to go as far as we can to support victims and survivors of sexual assault. But my support ends when you ask me to end the life of a human being. Just like how if you asked me to end the life of your rapist, I couldn't do that either.
I didn't
Can I
say
ask
that.
you a new
So,
question?
Okay, next question. You guys can go behind in the line.
Okay, so a lot of you pro-life people like to equate owning a slave to wanting an abortion.
Okay, this is unrelated to the scoreboard, but did she say owning an abortion?
Owning a slave to wanting an abortion.
I don't know. She might have said wanting an abortion.
Owning a slave to wanting an abortion.
I genuinely can't tell.
And I want you to explain to me how that's not racist in of itself.
What? I don't know. I've thought a bit about this, and I don't know how that could be racist. Saying that owning a slave is the same concept as having an abortion. I don't know. I don't see how comparing that could be racist.
Yeah, so when I started off my talk talking about Reconstruction and the end of slavery, and I think it's really important to do that because we have to remember the Supreme Court has been wrong lots of times throughout human history. The Supreme Court ruled that people who are, married couples, white and black, shouldn't be allowed to marry. They've actually ruled that certain people, depending on their IQ, should be forcibly sterilized. The Supreme Court ruled that black Americans weren't full persons. So when you hear the pro-life movement talk about slavery, talk about historical injustices,
You're not just
when you hear us talk about historical injustices that are committed, the reason we talk about slavery, the reason we will sometimes bring up what Nazi Germany, the atrocities Nazi Germany committed against Jewish brothers and sisters, is because these are all times in history, these are all times in history where the popular opinion was that because society or because the majority said that a certain person wasn't the right skin color, didn't have the right religion, that it was okay to discriminate against that person. It was okay to enslave that person. It was okay to blow those people into cattle cars and send them to concentration camps, never to walk outside freely again. That is why when we, in the pro-life movement, when we talk about and when you hear it brought up, because this is exactly what we do to the preborn child in the womb. We say because they're inconvenient or because we don't like them or whatever, they're not full humans.
Wrong. I will say comparing slavery and racism to having an abortion is pretty stupid because there's a very obvious difference. You see, the black people who were enslaved weren't affecting the slave owners at all beforehand. There was no actual reason to well, I mean, yes, there was a reason because they wanted to have free work. But my point is that them existing outside of being slaves wasn't bringing the slave owners' lives down since before they, came in contact with each other. Meanwhile, on the other hand, if you take a pregnant woman and her non-aborted baby, that is something that will actually affect her and is affecting her all the time. So comparing the two is just, it's just so weird.
They're not full persons. And guess what? We've done that time and time again throughout human history, and the result is always devastation and destruction.
I'd like to add one more thing. It's really fucking laughable that it's only white people equating slavery to owning an abortion.
She is saying owning an abortion. Listen to this.
To owning an abortion.
She is saying owning an abortion. Oh my god, I knew it. But anyway, she also says it's only white people saying that, which it's not. I feel like I've heard black people on the pro-life side say that as well. And actually, she's about to invite up someone who basically says the same stuff. So I don't really get what color or race has to do with anything.
Not once have I heard one black or woman of color.
Faith, do you want to come up here? Because apparently color matters.
Uh-oh, why do I hear boss music?
I would like to hear from a woman of color why
sure,
that
Faith,
isn't racist.
come on up here.
I would rather hear that.
That's really, okay, that's really. Go ahead, Faith.
What's so funny?
Why are you pro-life, Faith?
Yes, thank you.
So I'm gonna skip past Faith's section. She essentially just says the same stuff that this woman has been repeating, so nothing really new.
I just want to note that as a black woman and as a person who got my degree in biology, life does begin at conception.
It gets very interesting when people define their own definition of life, because that's scary.
I have a personal question for you. Are your beliefs about abortion and life and conception, does that have anything to do with your personal religious beliefs?
Ding, ding, ding. She's onto something, boys. Not about the belief that life begins at conception, but she gets her values from Christianity, so she's sort of onto something. I guess I'll go point.
And I also want to add on your beliefs about having sex, because you mentioned a baby as an acceptable consequence for someone who had sex. But how could a child who is, like, in Texas, sex education isn't even, like, you don't even have to have that here. In this entire state, do you know how many people grow up and not even knowing what their first period is? Not knowing that, they think that you can have sex on your period and you won't get pregnant. Like, there's people out here, like, underprivileged children who have sex early on, because frankly, when you're having sex at 11 to 13 years old, that's not normal.
Yeah, that is definitely a problem. And another good use for abortion. Preferably, we would eventually reach a point in society where that no longer happens because we're actually educating our children about things. But for now, that is a very useful way to apply abortion.
Something's going wrong. Something's not okay. And the fact that you're saying that you're having sex, you got pregnant, that's your own damn fault. So your consequence should be, oh, but you can't drive yet. You can't vote yet. Hell, you can't even make food for yourself yet. But you have to have this child. I'm gonna make you bear the child. And I'm not gonna give you the right to choose a safe abortion. And this is for anyone, because not everyone has the same moral background and was raised the same way as you. Some people are raised a completely different way and believe completely different things about sex and babies, and your belief that life begins at conception, that is not shared by a lot of people. It's not shared by me. It's not shared by any of my friends.
Yeah, so she started off making a pretty good point here. People with different religious beliefs and different backgrounds are going to have different thoughts on this matter because of those backgrounds. So I thought that's where she was going with that, and that I do agree with. But then she said that the belief that life begins at conception isn't shared by her or her friends kind of ruined that for me, because there are, there's science, which is objective, and then there's values, which are subjective. So I agree that with the values that are subjective, that she made a very good point about that, about, why does this lady's values and beliefs take priority over everyone else's? But the science is still objective.
So I'm asking you, why should your moral belief be the end-all, be-all, and make the law and take away the right to a clean, safe abortion for women to have? Because you talk about 5% of women that are raped become pregnant. 5% is still 2.9 million women who have become pregnant from rape in their lifetime. Just because it's the minority statistics are real people.
Another good point. I think I mentioned this before, but yeah, I've always hated that argument that rape and stuff like that, it's just such a small percentage. I think we can afford to, what they're essentially saying is we can afford to deal with it because it's so small. But those are actual people who are living in your country and in your state, and they need help, and you're just not going to because your values are wrong.
Shit happens. People become pregnant. People are raped. And the fact that you can sit here and say that the rapist baby, the seed or whatever you want to call it, the baby that's still in your belly and that it's not born yet, that you should be forced to have that, it's disgusting. And the fact that you can come over here and have an entire career based off of this, and I'm not done speaking, and then you can sit here in front of my friend who was a victim of rape and say that she should have that baby, it's disgusting. And you should be damn ashamed of yourself, and I don't believe that, and I'm not gonna fight until people like you do not have a place to come on here on my campus that I paid a school to go to and spew your fucking lies.
Man, she gets really hyped up doing that. I think the clapping or the cheering made her just want to go more. She said some pretty funny stuff. If you didn't know, she said,
And I'm not gonna fight until people like you do not have a place to come on here.
I'm not gonna fight until you guys can't come in here and do something. I don't know, it was funny.
I'm saying I don't believe that you should have the right to take away my access to a clean, safe abortion as a human right. I have the right to have the autonomy over my own body. You have the right to your autonomy over your own body. We both get knocked up, have sex, both of us pregnant. You want to abort it? You don't want to abort it? Your decision. If I want to abort it, I'm gonna fucking do that.
Yes, there we go. Let people do their thing. That is literally what it boils down to. When I first heard about this this debate, pro-choice or pro-life, I found it kind of strange because one of them seems so obviously better. Pro-choice, you can do what you want with yourself and your life. That just it just feels so obvious. I still find it hard to believe there's an actual debate that people are still talking about. It feels so obvious. I don't know.
So who are you to sit here and
so
tell
I don't
me
want to own a slave,
that?
but you want to own a slave. Am I supposed to just sit around and say that?
Do not sit.
Okay, you can't just compare anything that doesn't agree with your values to owning a slave. The point of this is not to tell you what you should do with your life. The point is to figure out what makes the most sense in a society. And I'm trying to explain right now, and I know they can't hear me obviously, but I'm trying to explain that it makes the most sense for abortion to be legal.
Here in front of a microphone and compare owning a slave to me, you white fucking bitch. You have no idea to sit here and say this shit to me.
Ma'am,
Holy shit, she goes hog wild after that comment. My god.
that is the argument you just made.
No, it's not.
Wait, what? If you use the analogy of you being a slave owner, then yeah, that is what you just said.
No, it is not. That is your incorrect interpretation. That is a logical fallacy.
Huh? What logical fallacy? Which one?
Oh, do you think that you can own a slave? If I want to own a slave, can I own a slave? How can you sit here with a straight face and say that to me? How is you not embarrassed of yourself?
Honestly, they're both acting like pretty moronic throughout this entire debate, but I have to say, if it were me and I had to choose to be dumb but like composed at least, or dumb and losing my mind, I would rather be composed. So I would say that she has more of a reason to be embarrassed than the other one.
Answer the question. How can you sit here and deny biology? This
How can you
entire
sit here and deny biology?
Whoops, that only goes one way, and it's not in your favor.
I'm gonna ask you the same
Do
question.
you want me to answer your questions? If you will sit down, I will answer your questions.
I'm gonna stand right here and I want you
well,
to
then you
tell
gotta
me
stop
how you
talking
think it's
so I can
okay
answer
to
your
compare
question.
owning a slave to having an abortion.
Man, she is just talking so much. I love how the lady is just trying to get any kind of word in. This is so funny.
It
Yes.
is not even in the same ballpark.
Yes, because
White people were not seen as people in this country.
yes,
they
just
were
like what you've
enslaved.
done.
Okay, let's analyze the argument she just tried to make. So, she knows by now that the pro-life lady is saying fetuses are alive and they're valuable and they want to live and they deserve life. But you guys don't see them as life and you don't even think that they're alive. And that's wrong. And then she is now coming in and she's gonna say that that's not the same because black people weren't seen as people. That is, you have just proven in her mind that she's correct now. Nice job.
Time and time again tonight to an unborn child. You have argued.
Unborn
You're-
child, not living.
you are-
Black people already existed.
Not only do fetuses exist, but they are also alive.
They were born.
Unborn
They were
children are
like
living,
literally
ma'am.
born into slavery.
Would you like me to answer your questions? I can't answer if you keep screaming at me.
Finally, we get a moment of peace as this woman demands silence so she can actually answer any of the questions she's asking.
Do you want me to answer your questions?
I'm waiting.
Are you going to stop
Are
talking?
you going to answer my question?
Yes.
Or are you going to sit here and look stupid?
Oh my god, and then everything blows up again. Oh my god, dude, this just never ends.
So, no. When we talk about abortion, we talk about the living human being that's present inside of a mother's womb. Biology confirms this fact. This is not a religious belief that I hold. This is a scientific fact.
Yes, it is a scientific fact, and it's not the religious belief you hold. The religious belief you hold is that the living being inside of her has intrinsic value.
The law of biogenesis says like begets like. We know the definition of life, and we know what's inside of a mother is living because that child is growing. You can call the child a fetus, a clump of cells, whatever, but the fact is that entity, which is a member of our human species, because two humans can't reproduce anything other besides a human, is in fact alive. The arguments that you're making to support your extremist beliefs to justify
not
abortion
extremist.
is
It's
that
basic
the
human
child
right that
in
you're
the
trying to
womb
take away
doesn't
from
have
me.
value. The argument you're trying to and failing to make, in the argument that you really
You don't get to
should be
sit here and tell me
debating
what my
on-
argument is. If you want to
Ma'am,
answer
you
my
said you'd be
question, then
quiet.
answer my
Ma'am, you
question.
said you'd be quiet.
Answer the
The
question.
argument you're failing to make, and what you argument you should be making, is that you believe that the human inside of the womb has less value than a woman.
Yes, oh my god, she said it. She actually understands the argument. Oh my god, this is mind-blowing. What a reveal. Yes, that is the argument you should be making. I don't know why she got so sidetracked talking about like slavery and whatnot, but yes, hopefully this will reground us.
And that certain people get
Yes,
to
it does,
decide-
because it's her
Exactly.
body, her choice.
Exactly.
Her body,
That is
exactly.
your
Her body, her
Ma'am,
choice.
that is your argument.
Sorry,
It is
I
not
slipped
that
up
it's
there a
not a
little
human being or that's living, because that's flat out denying biology. We know it's living, and we know it's a human being.
What else would
What
it
you're
be?
arguing is that child doesn't have the same right to life as his or her mother, because you have decided, and what you said during your comments was that if I got pregnant and chose not to have an abortion, I can do that, but you can choose to have abortion because the mother gets to decide the value of that person.
The mother-
That is
it's the mother's child. That's
Ma'am,
exactly what
you're
I'm
not letting me
saying.
answer the question. That's exactly what
Shut up.
happened. That's exactly what happened in pre-Civil War
Just say what am I
America.
saying?
Oh my god, she keeps bringing it back to this. Why is it always the same analogy? It's not the same. No, it's not. Like, I get how you're trying to compare it, but the fact that a mother living in society is more valuable than the child inside of her that is not living in the society is not the same as saying that black people aren't valuable, or sorry, pre-Civil War black people aren't valuable because like simply the slave owners didn't see them as valuable or that valuable. Like it's just not the same.
You could choose to assign value to black Americans depending on what you felt like. You could say, oh, I am against slavery because I know these people are human beings that have value and no one has the right to own another human person. But if I was a plantation owner in the South, I could say, yeah, they have some value, but they don't have full value because I deem it. It's a slippery slope. And that is not, by the way, that is not a religious belief. This is a scientific belief that this is a human being.
What? It's a scientific belief that this is a human being? I mean, yeah, it's a scientific fact that it's a human being. She was talking about how a person can be more valuable to some people than other people. And then she suddenly switched to talking about how it's a scientific belief that a human being is a human being. I mean, I don't even know. But she also mentioned it being a slippery slope, which it's not. That is just how everything works. Like, sorry, it's not really a slippery slope to say that people's favorite animal is different, you know? Like, it's the same concept.
Where we can differ on our belief is the value we assign. No, there's other people behind you.
I have actually one more question to ask, and she said I could ask a question
That is the
before I
actual
leave.
debatable question here today.
Yes, it is.
No,
Is what
it's
is
not.
Yes, it is.
the value we assign to human beings in the womb? Does a human being in the womb have the same value,
Are you gonna
the
stop
same
going
right
round
to
and
life
around and around
as
and
other
repeating
people,
yourself?
or do they not? That is the true pro-abortion argument. That if you would have taken an hour to research, you could have come and made. But you failed
Can
to
I
do
ask
that
my
because you
question
denied
now?
biology.
Can I
Next
ask my
person.
question
No, you
now?
can get behind the line. Back the
You
line.
can sit here and
You can
like
get in the
try
back
and
of the line. She's
create
been
this
waiting
argument and
patiently.
idea that you have of what we believe in and push it back in my face, but it's not going to work. Your
You
little
can get in the back of the line.
logical fallacy ring around the rosy will not work on us.
Logical fallacy ring around the rosy? I mean, she literally just said what I've been saying this whole time. Or no, she said that the argument that pro-abortionists should try and make, or pro-choice people should try and make, is the same argument that I've been making this entire video. And I completely agree. It is the best argument, and it is literally just the easiest way to describe why, specifically why it's okay, and why it should be legal.
You disgust me. And if
All right, she's been
biology...
waiting to speak, ma'am. You're not allowing other women to speak.
All right, it's been a wild ride, guys. We're down to the last two. Hang in there.
Hello. Oh, hello. I just have a couple questions for you. One, so like you think your beliefs are that that life begins at conception, right?
Yes.
Okay. What about just sperm? That's a human like DNA
It's
organism.
a part.
Yeah. So if a man masturbates and that sperm does not seek an egg, is that not this?
No.
I was tempted to deduct a point here, but she's not actually, because of how stupid that is, but she's not actually saying that she thinks that's how it works. She's just asking her if she thinks that's how it works. So it's not really the same, although I'm very tempted.
No, because the sperm does not have the capacity to grow, metabolize. It can't do that.
But
a
it
sperm
could.
is living. A sperm is a part of a person's body. That's what's so amazing about the science of contraception. Two parts combine and make one whole. And that sperm has genetics, has DNA from the father. The egg has DNA from the mother because sperm and egg are
I don't need a
parts.
biology lesson, ma'am. I took biology. I just
Well, they're
wanted to-
parts.
I know that. I've taken biology. I just wanted to know if you thought it was killing potential babies because.
No.
My next question is. How does it affect your day-to-day life whether or not I've had an abortion?
Oh yeah, another good argument. How does it affect you? Why do you care? Great question.
Because I think that human beings, as human beings who know the truth about what happens inside of a woman's body, how a child grows and develops, and when we know that violence is occurring, I think we have no other response than we must speak up, because that's what we're called to do.
Okay, and how far do you take that exactly? Because, I mean, there's a lot of shit going on in the world. Or are you only focusing on America? Because if you're not going to focus on the whole world and only America, then why not just focus only in your state, or only in your city, or only in your neighborhood? Or how about only yourself? You know what I mean? How much time exactly are you going to spend fighting injustice? And where exactly?
When we look at the suffragists, we look at those who fought against child labor, when we look at the civil rights activists, there were a lot of people who came from, for example, who came from the North to ride on freedom rides to be arrested and put into federal penitentiaries in Mississippi. It didn't matter to them. These were white college students from the North who went down into the deep South. They did it because they knew injustice was occurring. I believe that if you know injustice is occurring, you have a moral responsibility to speak up against that injustice and not to look the other way.
A moral responsibility? How? And why?
Because when we look the other way, atrocities happen. That's exactly what's happened in our country with more than 63 million abortions.
Seems like her argument is that we need to speak up about abortion and that it's wrong, because if we don't, atrocities will happen and it'll loop back to us in a negative way. So I'm trying to picture any scenario where abortion is legalized and people are getting abortions, and then that leads to an atrocity that somehow like affects us in a super negative way. I don't see it.
Okay, so like the girl previously said to me, I don't know your religious background. Oh, actually, you said you were a Christian, correct? Mm-hmm. Is that where you get your moral background from? Because I'm not, and like you said earlier, it's whether or not you've placed value on the fetus or the baby or whatever. Why does what you think is valuable not? Why is it not this? Why does it matter if I don't? It's my body.
Oh yeah, great point. Why do your values take priority?
Because I believe when we start subscribing different values to the same group of human beings, the result is always devastation.
That doesn't answer the question. The question was, why do your values take priority over ours? And your answer was, because when you have different values that apply to the same group of people, atrocities happen, and it leads to devastation. So by that same logic, they could just say then, okay, so we don't want it to lead to devastation. In that case, let's say our values take priority over yours. Now it won't lead to devastation now because our values align. Like what?
It's devastating to you. It's not devastating to me.
No, it's devastating to those human beings. And when we look throughout history,
What are they missing out on? They didn't have a life.
they were alive until they were
They
ended.
didn't. No,
through
ma'am,
an abortion.
you didn't. I said they didn't have a life. They did not miss out on anything. They don't even. If it's not like it missed out on experiencing the human life as a whole once it was aborted. So why?
So I mean, that's also a slippery slope.
Okay, I'm honestly getting kind of tired of hearing them say slippery slope.
What about people who get in a car wreck and are in a coma and are not having any experiences? What stops us from euthanizing that person? Because they're not having a life; they're just laying in a bed.
That person
having
was already
no experience.
born.
A better way to say that would have been that person already had a life. They have friends, they have value because they are valuable to people, they know people. And even though the act of being born isn't what gives them value, they do now have a birth certificate. They're in the, they're in the system, they're in society.
But you didn't really answer my question earlier when I asked you how does it affect your day-to-day life whether or not you know whether or not I've had an abortion.
It affects all of our lives.
No, it
because we
doesn't.
live
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
in a society that says that killing some people based on their convenience or based on their size
Their value.
is okay. And the results of that is devastating. The result is the fact that you guys can come here and sit and scream at me and curse at me and whatever because we devalue other human beings. Because that's a problem. We can see the result of abortion time and time again in our society. When we start saying certain people don't matter, certain people don't have a work, like, for example, I got called yesterday by a friend at U.S. House of Representatives. There's actually a movement now amongst those who support Obamacare and Affordable Care Act to pass something called QALYs. It's called Quality Adjusted Life Years. What is equality, you may ask? Equality is something a think tank prescribes, and they decide what type of care human beings receive based on the quality of life they may have if they get that care, and how much more longer they may live if they get that care. So my son and daughter are on a medicine that costs about $300,000 a year. It's one of the most expensive medicines there is, and it will hopefully make them have a normal life. It's one of the biggest medical advances we've ever had in the history of our world. It's a pill that corrects an actual genetic defect. It's amazing.
Whoa, I've never heard of that before. That is actually really cool.
These academics have decided that because my children may only live an extra 10 or 20 years, the cost of the drug isn't worth my children receiving it, because they put a price on what my children are. That is a result of abortion.
So I'm having a bit of trouble understanding this argument. She says that the academics decided that the cost of the drug isn't worth her children receiving it. Does that mean the cost of manufacturing the drug or the cost of buying the drug isn't worth her children receiving it? I don't know. I'm having trouble to understand that. And I also don't understand how that's the result of abortion. If anyone knows what she means by that, make sure to leave a comment letting me know, because I can't really understand what she's saying.
Of saying certain people matter and certain people don't, that we're willing to then put prices on people's heads to say you only matter this much. You should only receive health care to this amount. But you have a genetic defect and you're not going to live as long as other people, so you shouldn't have access to these expensive drugs that are going to extend your life. That's the result of saying that unborn children, preborn children don't matter, and that we get to decide individually.
Yeah, she kind of lost me at the end. I had a really hard time understanding what she was saying with that last part. Make sure to leave a comment letting me know, like I said. But now, moving on to the final person. This is the last stretch, guys.
Hello. So, you pointed out earlier that whenever someone who gets pregnant, not just women, because women aren't the only ones who can get pregnant.
Actually, yes, only women can get pregnant, believe it or not.
Pregnant too. There are such thing as trans men.
Oh, trans men. Well, yeah, I guess so.
Trans men can get pregnant. So, no, they're not. Women, they're men.
Actually, no, they're trans men.
They're not. Women, they're men. Trans men are men.
No, trans men are trans men.
But anyways, as I was saying before, I was interrupted. You say they do not have to become a parent. But another way they could do it is foster system.
No.
This is just not, no, I'm not saying that's the
foster
only
system.
reason. I'm not saying this is the only reason. I'm saying this is a thing that they could do.
I think it's pretty weird that she bring up the foster system just to say that it wouldn't work. Like, I know you didn't bring it up, but this is something they could do. But it wouldn't work, but it's something they could do. But it wouldn't work though, which is why, abortion should be legal, because this thing that they could do would not work. I don't know, it's just kind of weird.
But foster systems are severely broken in this age. I'm not saying
you
brought it
back
no.
up your definition, because that's not the point of foster care. Foster care isn't to give your child over to the system. It's about family reunification.
I'm saying that a lot of people give their children up to foster care or adoption agencies or wherever you're talking about. But a lot of people that go into the foster care system can attest it to being awful. You want to subject these children that just because their parents didn't want them, you want to put them into a system that doesn't care for them, that they're 4 times more likely to commit suicide, 7 times more likely to have depression, 2 times more likely to have learning disabilities and suffer from all of these different things. You want them to suffer through all this just because you're forcing this person to have a baby?
Is it so? If someone's going to suffer, is it better just to kill them?
Well, personally, I'm not a big fan of suicide, but I do think that the individual in question should be the one to choose that. This is, of course, assuming that they have a functioning brain.
I'm not saying that. What? I'm not saying that.
What? Wait, I thought that was what you were saying. So if you're not saying that, what are you saying exactly?
That's what you're saying. You're saying you don't want them to go to
I'm
the foster
saying you
care
would
system because
rather-
of all of these statistics showing how children in foster care suffer.
I'm saying
right?
you would rather this person put up their baby to have a terrible life and most likely end
So
up
what's
just
the more compassionate option?
to have an abortion.
To kill it. Do you think there's anything less extreme you can prescribe to that situation than
Are you saying the
dismemberment?
foster care system is a viable option when multiple children die every day in there?
What? So how do you think that's going to convince her? You think that telling her that multiple children dying in foster care is a bad thing, therefore you should kill the children 100% of the time so they don't have to run the possibility of dying?
I'm saying when a woman is pregnant with a child that she does not want to parent, she's not placing into a foster
And
care
I'm saying
system.
not only women can get pregnant.
What? No, there is no way that's what you were saying. You were talking about foster care and whatnot. There's no way. I've rewatched what you're saying. There is absolutely no chance that your point was that not only women can get pregnant.
Oh, okay. So when a woman is pregnant and she doesn't want to become a mother, she can choose
I like
to
how you're
place
only using
her
she
child with an
pronouns,
adopted
women.
family.
I love that. That's
or
great.
she can.
All right, well, she seems... she definitely wasn't arguing that before, but I guess she switched, and now her whole argument is that trans men can get pregnant, and, yeah, wow.
Choose to use the already accessible safe haven laws to give up her child to the state. Those children,
Yeah,
those
and the state doesn't
newborn
give a fuck
babies
about
do
kids.
not languish in foster care. They don't languish in foster care. Why? Because there's over 1 million
What about
couples
all
in
the
America
cases
today
where kids go
waiting-
to families that don't
they're
care about
waiting
them
to
and suffer
adopt
from domestic
newborns.
abuse?
When you're talking about foster care, we're talking about older children, not newborns. Older children whose parents have lost the right to parent them because of abuse, because of alcohol or drugs, because they've been imprisoned.
That's
We're
not
not
always the
talking
case.
about babies going into foster care. What I asked you is, do you think there's anything less extreme we can do as a society rather than saying, well, you may end up in foster care. We don't know. But you may end up in foster care. You may have a hard life. Therefore, I judge you, and I think it's okay for someone to dismember you.
Yeah, I really wish we didn't get sidetracked, pretending that the reason abortions happen is for the good of the child. I feel like the problems that could arise from a non-aborted child are important to talk about, but that's definitely not the sole reason. Like, it's not like we're like, oh, well, this child's gonna have a hard life, so, let's kill them so we don't, they don't suffer. It's like, no, that's not the reason. The reason is, I don't want to go through with this, I can't go through with this, and this child has no value otherwise, so why wouldn't we?
That, in fact,
I think
is
that it is
extremism.
the person who's pregnant. I think it is their choice whether they want to succumb their child that they might have into that life, or to give it the option to get rid of it so it doesn't have to suffer through life like that.
Do you think I was selfish for giving birth to my 2 children with cystic fibrosis because they're going to suffer?
I do. That was your choice.
But
Yeah, what kind of argument is that? You're arguing with people who believe in choice, so asking them to judge you on your choice is not exactly going to work.
to do that.
my child's going to suffer. Is that selfish
But it's
of me?
your choice.
So it's my choice whether or not my child suffers. All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming out tonight. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
What a ride, that was crazy. So, on Team Pro-Life, we have 4 W points and 24 L's. On Team Pro-Choice, we have 9 W points and 26 L's. Pro-Life has a score of -20, and Pro-Choice has a score of -17. So, Pro-Choice won, but not by much. It's actually embarrassing how close it was, considering they have the right idea. Yeah, what a ride that was. Hope you found this video enlightening. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like if you do, and see you guys next time.